there's been so many political fiascos that Putin could have actually found his way in. He's trying to do a checkmate. And do you think that if people stopped for a second and paid more attention, this whole situation could have been stopped in time?
I do believe that.
Okay.
And the first place it could have been prevented is at the end of the Cold War. The end of the Cold War in the 90s, I worked on the Cold War. I was as part of that process in the 80s of trying to work between the United States and Moscow. And I worked as an academic, but also as trying to think very practically about measures to prevent a nuclear war. And so the key Soviet experts I knew at the time, all of them, and the dean of them, George Kennan. George Kennan was the father of containment.
Yeah.
You know, he was the American diplomat who came up with the doctrine of containment, which was the strategy that eventually succeeded. And all of them said, do not expand NATO, because you'll take advantage of Russia when it's weak. And when Russia gets strong again, they will remember this. And George Kennan was like in his 90s at that point, and then like when the decision was made. And he gave a warning, a very strong warning. He said, if you do this, you will regret it. So it's very easy for us now to demonize Putin and demonize even the Russians and so on. But historically, if you're an historian, the original mistake was ours, was the West's, was triumphalism. It was the greatest miracle of my lifetime was practically the bloodless dissolution of the Soviet Empire. The whole world was threatened by the prospect of the Cold War. I was in Moscow in 1989 with the surviving participants of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Robert McNamara had been Secretary of Defense, McGeorge Bundy had been National Security Advisor, Andrei Gromyko had been Soviet Foreign Minister, the son of Khrushchev. All of those people together, and it was just trying to understand what happened there. We came so close to nuclear war, like this. We were just so lucky. And it didn't just happen once, it happened many times. So it was a miracle that the Cold War came to an end, because when I was a student, the professor was saying the Berlin will be there forever. Berlin Wall will be there forever. The Cold War is going to go on for generations. And if you asked Soviet or Russian historians, just hypothetically, how many people would die if the Soviet Empire collapsed? You know, their lowest figure would be 5 million, 10 million, 20 million people, because they knew they had as an example what happened when the Russian Empire collapsed. And it happened, so it was a miracle. And there was a huge opportunity there to incorporate Russia into the security architecture of Europe, economically, to do what happened at the end of World War II with Germany, to actually embrace, incorporate, integrate. And that opportunity was lost. In fact, we moved what the Russians regarded as a hostile military alliance to them, right to their borders, all the way, you know. And so prevention should have started there with a little bit of wisdom, listening to the wise people who told us what was going to happen.